Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So continuing on with Hari Bhakti Vilas in the 5th chapter, the 5th Vilas, and where we finished off was around sloka 232 or 233. We were talking about what's called, let's have a look, what's called, it is called Swadeha Pita Puja. So I'm just going to read quickly these 2 or 3 verses, and then I'll go to another document which gives us more information about how to do this practically, because we already talked about this. So anyway, text 232, the Swadeha Pita Puja. Swadehe means in one's body, in one's body. The process of worshipping the Lord in one's own body, because the Lord is conceived of within the heart, within one's heart. Thereafter, one should worship his spiritual master as situated in his head, on the top, in his head, and Ganesha situated in the Muladhara, which is the lowest chakra, the base of the spine. One should worship various personalities at various parts of one's body with water, sandalwood paste, incense, and other articles. So here it says here, it's not, it just says puja yet there. Puja yet. Yeah. So this is all mental puja, right? And then continuing on, it says the performance of Nyasa on the body of the Lord. So after you worship the Lord within the body, then again do Nyasa, the Nyasa again touching different parts of the body of the Lord with mantras. So first of all, worship the Lord in the heart, and then worship the Lord externally. The performance of Nyasa on the body of the Supreme Lord. Then, while chanting the Bija Mantra, clean, which is clean, and it's actually mentioned here by name, Kama Bijam, right? The V and the B are, of course, interchangeable in Bengali text. One should merge the brightly shining effulgence of the Muladhara chakra and the heart between the eyebrows. Okay, so the power, or the power of the energy of God within the body stems from the Muladhara all the way up to the Sahasradhara. The whole body is completely, containing, right? This is the body of the Lord. It's containing the power of the Lord, and here we're conceiving of this power as coming from the base, from the Muladhara chakra up to the and the heart up to the between the eyebrows, which I believe is, I'm not sure, it's the Agya chakra or something, one chakra up there. I might be wrong. That text 234. After meditating in this way, one should perform the Panchanganyas. Panchanganyas, normally we hear about Saranganyas. Saranganyas means 6 places. Nyasa on 6 places of the Lord's body. But here it said Panchanganyas, 5 places. Panchanganyasa with this mantra, while considering that his worshipable Lord is situated within the effulgence in his personal form. So that we conceive of the Lord in a personal form, and he has a brilliant effulgence. So one should then perform the Panchanganyas with the 18-syllable mantra, which is the Mula mantra that we're using, the base mantra or the root mantra for the particular deity that we're worshipping, is Lord Krishna, on his body, knowing that Shri Krishna and his mantra are non-different. So we should be always thinking this when we're using the Mula mantra. We should also always think that the Mula mantra itself is non-different from the Lord, the Gopal Mantra, the Astadasatra mantra. So now let us have a look. Let's just have a look at how this is done practically. Okay, so we just saw the section, text 232 of chapter 5, called Swadeha Pita Puja. Then repeat the Pita Nyasa. So Swadeha Puja, what he's saying is it's said to repeat the Pita Nyasa within one's body, starting from the Muladhara chakra up to the heart, or alternatively just within the heart. One should mentally construct an altar or yoga pita upon which to worship. We are installing the Lord's different energies within our body in order to make a place for him to come and accept works within us. So we chant, meditating, beginning with the Muladhara chakra, going up to the heart chakra, or just you can also just meditate. That's all going on in the heart chakra, and the mantras to be chanted are Om Adara Shaktaye Namaha, Om Mula Prakritiye Namaha, Om Kamataya or Om Kumaya Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Sheshaya Namaha, Om Priti. There's a couple of different alternatives here that can be used. They mean the same thing. They always mean the same thing. Om Prativyaye Namaha or Shamaye Namaha. Om Kshira Sindave Namaha. Om Kshira Samudraya Namaha. Which what do these mean? We have to do with the Mula Prakriti is the base of everything. Adara Shakti is that's holding everything up. It's the meditation on the altar on which Krishna is sitting or standing when we worship him within the heart or within the deity. And so we have Adara Shakti, Mula Prakriti on top, then Kurma. This is the tortoise who holds up the universe. That in this is a microcosm, which is a reflection of what happens in the macrocosm. So then Ananta, who is the Shesha, and then on top the earth, right? Prativya, and then this Chira Samudra. Chira Samudra means the ocean of milk, and then on top of that Sweatadweep, the white island, which is lapped by waves of milk, right? So this is all conceived in the mind. It's also, so we can say Om Shira Sindave Namaha, Om Shira Samudraya Namaha, the ocean milk, Om Prakasha Swabhavaya, that should be Swabhavaya Namaha, right? Swabhavaya Namaha, or Swetatdvipaya Namaha. Shri, Om Shri, or Shri Yukta Ratna, or Ratnojvala, Ratna Ujvala, Mahita Maha Mandapaya Namaha. So we're thinking about this Mandapa, where the Lord is situated, and then Om Kalpa, he's underneath a desire tree, Om Kalpa Vrikshaya Namaha. The devotees of Krishna can alternatively meditate on the milk ocean as Mathura, Swetatdweep as Vrindavan, the jeweled mandapa as the groves of Vrindavan, and Kalpa Vriksha as the Kadamba tree in Vrindavan. So these are alternatives, because here we see most of the mantras they seem to be in relationship to Vishnu. So if we want to make them more personal, and if our meditation is on Krishna within Vrindavan, then we can alternatively think of the ocean milk being Mathura, Swetatdweep being Vrindavan, the jeweled mandapa being the groves of Vrindavan, the bushes and groves of Vrindavan, and the Kalpa Vriksha as being the Kadamba trees in Vrindavan. So that particular Kadamba tree under which Krishna is sitting. And in this, this is stated there in Hari Bhakti Vilasa 5.143, which we discussed before when we were discussing the dhyana on the meditation on Lord Krishna before worship, right? And it gave this verse from 56th verse from the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita. Sayacha chira disravati surabhi bhyas chasumahan nimesha nimesardakyo vavarjati nahiyatrapi samaya pache sweta dvipam tamaham iha golokamitiyam vidantaste santaha chiti virala chara katipaye. Okay. So, and the translation is given here. I worship that transcendental seat known as Swetatdweep, where numerous, we can say, or numberless milk cows always emit transcendental oceans of milk, where there is an eternal existence of transcendental time, who is ever present and without past or future, and hence is not subject to the quality of passing away even for the space of half a moment. Right? This Nimesharda means half a second, half a blinking of an eye. That realm is known as Goloka only to a very few self-realized souls in this world. So, touching the following places with the right hand, the fingers of the right hand, install these deities there on the pitam, which Lord Krishna is sitting on or standing on, either in your heart or it can be done with flowers also. at the base of the deity or the altar of the deity. Om Dharmaya Namaha, Om Jnanaya Namaha, Om Vairagyaya Namaha, Om Aishwaryaya Namaha, Om Adharmaya Namaha, Om Ajnanaya Namaha, Om Avairagyaya Namaha, Om Anaishwaryaya Namaha. Okay, and the different places there: right shoulder, right arm, left arm, mouth or face, waist, right side and left side. Meditate on the petals of the respective chakras, starting with the eastern petal, right? And there we have these different chakras in the body, in our body, in the Lord's body also. And each one of the chakras has different numbers of petals. And as we were doing with the Mantra-Nyasa, before we discussed the Mantra-Nyasa, the Matrikas are all these different syllables, right? Or letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, and there are 50 or 51 of them. And we worship those as expansions of Saraswati, and each petal in the different chakras in the body has got a letter. So we have to meditate on the different petals and the different letters in the Mantra-Nyasa. So we see the Mantra-Nyasa before. Remember, there are two types of Mantra-Nyasa. There's the internal one and the external one. So the Antar one, there's Antar Bahis. So this inside, the internal one, we should look at for this procedure. Or just in the heart, and install the following deities in them chanting Om Am Tapinyari Dvarasakalatmane Surya Mandalaya Namaha. Right, that has to do with the Surya Mandala and its 12 sections. Om Amtadi Sodasa Kalatmane Soma Mandalaya Namaha, which has to do with the moon mandala, the Soma Mandala, and 16 different parts. And then Om Mam Dhumadi Dasa Kalatmane Vani Mandalaya Namaha, has to do with Vani or Agni, the fire mandala. And these and the different chakras are mentioned here, right? The heart chakra, the throat chakra, the navel chakra. Om Sam Satvaya Namaha in the heart, Ram Rajase Namaha in the heart again, and Tam Tamase Namaha in the heart. The three gunas are meditated upon as being the three coils of a Kundalini serpent within the body. So the idea is we think of the Kundalini serpent. Okay, think of a snake at the base of the spine, and the snakes are sleeping. They sometimes curl themselves up in a round way, and so this snake is going around 3 times before it's coming up. Okay, so it's the 3 coils. So the 3 gunas are the coils of the snake. So Om Atmane Namaha in the heart, Om Antaratmane Namaha in the heart, Om Pam Pam Paramatmane Namaha, and Om Hrim Jnanatmane Namaha in the heart. Meditate on the 8-petal lotus under the Kalpavriksha, Kadamba tree, in the heart, and install starting from the east or the front, going clockwise around, the following lady attendants waving chamaras on each petal. So we read about this. There are these ladies called chamaradaris. And this is in the meditation on Vaikuntha. There are actually 9 chamaradaris. And they have names, and they're situated in, if we think of there being 8 petals in the lotus in which the Lord is situated, in the middle of the lotus, these 8 ladies are on the 8 petals, but there's actually 9 ladies, I believe. Let's see. Yes. Okay, and the 9th one we consider to be just a little offset from the petal in the middle, not actually in the very middle of the lotus, because that's where Lord Krishna is going to be. So, Om Vimalaya Namaha, Om Utkarshanyaya Namaha, Om Jnanaya Namaha, Om Kriyaya Namaha, Om Yogaya Namaha, Om Pravaya Namaha, Om Satyaya Namaha, Om Ishanyaya Namaha, Om Madhye Anugrahaya Namaha. Right, so those in the different directions. Starting from the east, going east, southeast, south, southwest, west, northwest, north, northeast, and then just a little bit offset from the petal in the middle. So chant the Pita Mantra. Next, it says to chant the Pita Mantra. I think we've been over this before. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnave Sarva Bhutatmane Vasudevaya Sarvatma Samyoga Padma Pitatmane Namaha. So there's a specific mantra there to be chanted, which is required according to Hari Bhakti Vilasa 5.145 before we start the actual external worship. Next, after repeating the Pita Nyasa, right? So we go back and we have to see the Pita Nyasa section. Worship mentally your gurus or guru parampara situated in your head. So this is what we were talking about in verse 232, right? So not normally when we worship the guru, we don't worship the guru alone, but sometimes we worship the guru alone, but normally we'll meditate upon the whole guru parampara, and that is called a guru parampara anusandhanam. Some people do this separately just before they start anything in the day. They'll do guru parampara anusandhanam, worship the guru parampara. Here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it's done just directly before the worship of the deity. So either way, but we have to remember the guru parampara before we start any specific worship of the Lord. And we have to feel that we are being used as a tool by the guru and the guru parampara to get the worship of the Lord done. As situated in the head, and Ganesha situated in the Muladhara Chakra, chanting Om Guru Bhyo Namaha Murdni. Now, Murdni just simply means, we don't actually have to say Murdni. Murdni is added to this mantra here in the commentary by Sanatana Goswami. These two mantras are given: Om Guru Bhyo Namaha, and then for the gurus, and Gam Ganapataye Namaha for Ganesh in the Muladhara. So here it says Gam Ganapataye Namaha Muladhare. So Muladhara means in the Muladhara. Murdni means in the head. Okay. So that's very common that you'll see a mantra which is written either in the commentary or in the text, and right after the end of the mantra is given the place where we have to meditate, that the puja is going on, because it's of course a mental puja. So then perform their worship with all upacharas. Okay, so upacharas, different upacharas we have to talk about yet. We haven't talked about upacharas. We'll go into upacharas in general. Now, what does upachara mean? It means a type of service that we offer. And normally it's conceived of as like the service that you offer a guest who comes to the house or to the king in his palace. So in the temple, it is considered to be Raja Upachara, right? Kingly service. And in the house is considered like Atiti Upachara. It's like considered to be like offering service to a guest. So anyway, we'll go. That's a whole discussion about the different upacharas and how they're offered, in what order they're offered, and how many there are, and how they're actually offered. That'll come up soon. But there's some texts that explain that, and we'll leave that whole thing till then. So right now we don't exactly know how to do that, but we'll find out, because it'll come very soon. Then chanting the Bija Mantra, one should meditate the Bija Mantra again, the Klim Bij, which is the Kama Bija Mantra. So Klim, one should meditate that you are uniting the energies in the Muladhara and the Heart Chakra together into a brilliant effulgence between the eyebrows. Now, within that effulgence, whenever we meditate on some effulgence, within that effulgence, we should meditate upon a personal form of the Lord. There is no effulgence without the personal form of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, we should always remember this. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratisthana. Brahman is the spiritual effulgence of the Lord, right? So there has to be just like you have the sun, or you have a candle, or you have a fire. All these things have effulgence, but there is no effulgence without an actual candle and an actual flame, without an actual sun planet, an actual sun god, without an actual fire, right, made of wood and flames. There is no effulgence. So within the effulgence that we meditate upon of the Lord, the Brahman, we have to meditate upon the personal form of the Lord, what we call them, the Divya Mangala Vigraha is what we normally say. It's the divine, auspicious, most auspicious, all auspicious Vigraha or form of the Lord. And that is what gives out this effulgence, or otherwise known as Shakti or Tejas. So then we repeat the Panchanganyas. So now after 232 and 233, this general instruction, about meditating on the Lord within this effulgence, this great effulgence. Repeat the Panchanganyasa. So the Panchanganyasa, then again externally on the body. Meditate that there's no difference between the Gopal Mantra and Lord Krishna himself. This is what we were saying before. And the quote here for this particular instruction is verses 234 and 235, which we just saw. So here let's now look at the Panchanganyasa. Now the Panchanganyasa was mentioned before in verses 152 to 154, also the 5th chapter. So, okay, so what we need to do is in order to not be confused about this, Hari Bhakti Vilasa mentions different procedures in different places, and sometimes it says go back and you have to do this again, or you have to do this, see this place. It is not written in a step-by-step manner. So what we have to do is we have to get all those things, we put them in a step-by-step manner. That's called a prayoga. That's in a way that it can be done step-by-step. But the way Hari Bhakti Vilasa is written is that the topics come up and they're explained, but they're not necessarily explained in the exact order that they should be performed. So this Panchanganyasa, which is referenced in these slokas 232 to 235, right? So it is actually mentioned in 152. How to do it is actually mentioned in 152 to 154. So we go back to that and we find out what it is. So here it is again, right? Chanting Om Klim Krishnaya Hridayaya Namaha, right? And just remember that when we talk about the Saranganyasa and the Panchanganyasa, Anga means the limbs. So normally when we talk about limbs, we're talking about the limbs above the waist on the body for touching. But there are some nyasas, of course, which we touch other limbs of the body even below the waist, like the feet or the anus or the genitals or the thighs. In which case, we only touch near those places, and by meditation, we're touching the place. So it's by bhava. But we can actually touch the places on the upper body, or we can hold it near the place to do the nyasa. It can also be done by meditation. So here the Saranganyasa normally is the heart, the head, the sika, the shoulders, or to make a shield in front of the body, the eyes, and the directions around it. So that's usually Saranganyasa. Here we're going to do that, but because it's Panchanganyasa, right? Because it's only 5 and not 6, Pancha and Sad, right? So because it's Panchanganyasa, right, one of those will be left out. One of those places will be left out. Now, why would it be not Saranganyasa? It can be Saranganyasa or Panchanganyasa. My feeling is that if we remember that the Kamadev Gayatri, the Gopal Mantra, which is the Mula Mantra that we're using, the Nyasa of the Mula Mantra is sometimes being broken up into 5 and sometimes being broken up into 6, and that was mentioned before. And both systems of breaking it into 5 and breaking it into 6 are correct. So if we break it into 5, then we break the 5. We break up the mantra as Klim Krishnaya, Govindaya, Gopijana, Vallabhaya, and Swaha. That's 5. If we break it up into 6, we break the Klim off from Krishnaya. So we have Klim as 1, Krishnaya 2, Govindaya 3, Gopijana 4, Vallabhaya 5, and Swaha 6. So that's the way to break up the mantra in order to use it for 5 places on the body or 6 places on the body. Here, we're going to do the 5. Now, for some reason, this Panchanganyas is preferred, is given first in Hari Bhakti Vilasa when it discusses to break it into 5 or to break it into 6. Somehow or other, it's being discussed as 5 first. Okay? But the normal situation with most mantras is broken up into 6. Now, if a mantra doesn't contain 6 words or 6 easily breakable sections, then you have to repeat it. For instance, Om is only 1 syllable. You can do Saranganyasa with Om, but you have to use it for every single place because it's only one syllable. If you have 2 syllables, then you can alternatively do the, on the 6 places, you can alternatively do the 2 syllables. If you have 3 syllables or 3 words in the mantra, you can then break them up into 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 for the 6 places, right? So there are different ways of breaking up. These are all become more apparent if you study other books on Mantra Shastra like Sharada Tilaka, or even if we look at Kramadipika, which this prayoga, this particular procedure is coming more or less from Kramadipika. So if we look at these other books in Tantra Shastra or Mantra Shastra, Mantra Shastra, then we'll find more details about how to construct. If we have a different mantra that we haven't seen the prayoga of, how to construct the prayoga, a step-by-step way of doing the nyasa with that particular mantra. Okay, so anyhow, this is the way that the Panchanganyas is done here, from verses 152 to 154. So Om Klim Krishnaya Hridaya Namaha, touch the heart with the 4 fingers of the right hand. Om Govindaya Shirase Swaha, touch top of the head with the 4 fingers of the right hand. We should be very familiar with this by now because we've already covered it, we've already done it. Om Gopijana Shikaya Vasate, right? Touch the Shika with the 4 fingers of the right hand. There are also different, in Pancharatra, sometimes according to different samhitas, there are different ways of holding the hand when touching these different parts of the body. But here, it's not specified. So if it's not specified, we simply use 4 fingers, the 4 fingers of the right hand. So Om Gopijana Shikaya Vashate, touch the Shika with 4 fingers of the right hand. Om Valabhaya Kavachaya Hum, cross the hands in front of the chest. The other way of doing the Kavacha mantra is by touching the right hand only to the 2 shoulders, first the right shoulder, then the left shoulder. Chanting Om Swaha Astraya Pate, right? Slap the palm of the left palm with the index and middle fingers of the right hand 3 times, right? And snap the fingers of the right hand while encircling the head clockwise. Now, when snapping the fingers, actually, many texts say to snap the index finger and the thumb. Now, why is that? Okay, that's because the index finger is called the tarjani, or the blaming, or the cursing finger. So when we're making a shield around ourselves, doing what we call digbandha, or closing the directions around us, right, then the cursing finger is the way to keep others out. Just like when we have the dwarpalakas, we have the Jaya Vijaya Chanda Prachanda, Bala Prabala, Data Vidata. We have these 8 doorkeepers or security guards at the different gates of Vaikuntha, right? Those, or any temple. If we go to any of the temple, even if you go to Devi temples or Shiva temples, in front of the Garbhagriha, the deity room, there are these guards. There are these guardian deities. And the guardian deities, they always have a sort of mean look on their face, like beware, and they always put their finger out like this, beware. So this is why the snapping is also done with the finger and the index finger and the thumb, although it's very difficult to snap with the index finger and the thumb. So now in actual practice, I've never seen anybody do the index finger and the thumb snapping. We're used to snapping with the middle finger and the thumb. So people usually will snap with the middle finger and the thumb. Whatever's easier for you. But in Shastra normally says the index finger. Okay, so then we have the Karanyasa. So the Karanyasa is on the hands. So we have the same mantras, but we're going to add the names of the fingers when we touch the fingers to that, and then Namaha. So the names of the fingers are Angustabhyam, Tarjanibhyam, Madhyamabhyam, Anamikabhyam, Kanistikabhyam, Kartala, Karapristabhyam. Right? So the abhyam just simply means 2. So 2 thumbs, 2 index fingers, 2 middle fingers, 2 ring fingers, 2 little fingers, and the Kartala means the palm and the back. Kartala Karaprista. This is the Kartala and this is the Karaprista. on the palm and the back of the hands. Okay, so Om Klim Krishnaya Angastabhyam Namaha. And when we do this, it's a normal Karanyasa. We've explained about it before, so no real need to go over it again like that. But we're basically running our thumbs and running our index finger along the thumb, and then from the base to the top, and then running the thumb along the different fingers in order, and then touching the front and the back of the hands. Right. So Om Klim Krishna. I'm just going to say the mantra. Om Klim Krishnaya Angastabhyam Maham Govindaya Tajnibhyam Swaha. Om Gopi Jana Madhyamabhyam Vasate. Om Valabhaya Anamikabhyam Hum. Right. Okay. Valabhaya Hum. Om Swaha Kanistikabhyam Pate. Right. And then it says again, one must perform the Karanyasa and the Anga and Karanyasa with the Anga and Karanyasa mantras. Okay, so it says after doing this, then you're supposed to do the Karanyasa again. Why is it most important? Why is the Karanyasa also given more importance? The Karanyasa is given more importance because we're actually going to touch the deity with our hands. So we want to wear like mantra gloves when we're touching the deity. In other words, our hands should be as spiritual as the deity. So all the syllables of the Gopal Mantra, which are equivalent to Lord Krishna, are placed upon our hands before we touch the deity. So we are not touching the deity. Krishna is touching himself because Krishna is being put on our hands in the form of the Gopal Mantra, and therefore our hands are covered with this mantric glove, which we touch the deity with, right? So similarly, when we do the Buddha Shuddhi and when we do all these nyasas on the body, the idea is to purify the body, to become just like, this is called by some people a Hangopasana, where we conceive of the body as being as pure as Krishna in order to touch Krishna. And how do we do that? By touching the syllables of Krishna on our body, the syllables of the Gopal Mantra on our body, because that mantra is non-different from Krishna. So we are wearing a protective suit and gloves of Krishna when we touch Krishna, because he's so pure, only he can touch himself. We are not pure enough to actually touch him, so we cover ourselves with those mantras mentally. Okay, so this Panchanganyas Karanyasa is going to combine the mantras of the Priya Namaha Sirse Swaha Sikaiva Siddhi Kavachaya Hum Netrabhya Bosate, like that, and the Angastabhyam Mahatajani Mahapadra Anamikad Mahakilistikad Mahakatarakapistab combines them together, and it's a double nyasa for the hands, right, which are most important. Okay, so Om Klim Krishnaya Hridaya Namaha Angastabhyam Maha, and the things to the procedures to be gone through and the different actions to be done are the same as with the Karanyasa before. It's just the mantras are a little bit different because we've added the Anganyasa mantras as well. So Om Klim Krishnaya Hridaya Angastabhyam Maha, Om Govindaya Shirse Swaha Tarjanibhyam Swaha, Om Gopi Jana Shikaya Vasate Madhyamabhyam Vasate, Om Balabhaya Kavachaya Hum Anamikabhyam Hum, Om Swaha Strike Pat Kadistikabhyam Pat. Okay. So then after that, there's the Antarbhushana Nyasa. Antarbhushana Nyasa. Bhushana means ornaments. And that is going to come up next. So let's go back to the Mula Mantras. Let's go back to the original slokas of Hari Bhakti Vilasa. And let's read, first of all, text 236. And then we'll come back and we'll look at how to actually do this. Okay, so the original slokas are here. So we finished off speaking about Lord Krishna is non-different from his mantra. And now text 235, it says the proof that Lord Krishna and his holy names or mantras are non-different is that Vaishnavas perform the nyasa to the form of the Supreme Lord that has appeared within their hearts because of their meditation upon his mantra. So this is the way it always happens. The idea back in the second Vilasa, we talk about first Vilasa, we find a guru, we approach the guru, we learn from the guru. Then at a certain point, the guru is going to give mantra diksha to the disciple. When the guru gives a mantra diksha to the disciple, then the guru is instructing the disciple how to worship the Lord in a particular form, according to the mantra which he gives. The mantra which the guru gives to the disciple is going to be the Istadevata for the disciple. So the guru is going to give a mantra. If he gives the Gopal Mantra, then he's going to teach the disciple how to worship Gopal. He's going to teach him all about the form of Gopal, how to meditate upon the form of Gopal within himself and within the deity, and also how to do all the different nyasas, how to divide up the mantra and use the mantra. Okay, so once again, when we get a mantra from a teacher, the teacher has to tell us a few things. He should first of all give us the lineage that the mantra is coming down to us from. So we should know the lineage. Why? Because we have to meditate before we use the mantra. We have to meditate and we have to take permission from that lineage, from that Guru Parampara. So we have to know the lineage of the mantra that the mantra comes down in. Then we also have to know, right, the meaning of the mantra. So we have to know what it means, and we have to have a dhyana mantra. We have to know the rishi of the mantra, the chanda or the poetic meter, the sage of the mantra, the poetic meter of the mantra, the chanda, the devata, the particular deity that mantra talks about, and we have to also understand the purpose of the mantra, how it's to be used. Okay, so the guru is going to tell the disciple everything. He's going to tell him all those things. Then he's also going to teach him how to do all the nyasas with the mantra, and then he's going to tell him the meditation on the particular form within himself and within the deity, and he's going to tell him how to perform the worship with that mantra. All of that is done, right? But the mantra doesn't. It can't be the mantra can't be used without all those things, without knowing all those things, or it can't be used to the most in the best way without knowing all those things, and therefore also the realization of the deity through the mantra has to be done by meditation. That meditation involves what we call puruscharya. Puruscharya later on it's going to be described in chapter 17, exactly how to get the siddhi or perfect the mantra so that one can actually use the mantra properly. Okay, so this is just, it's very interesting. One may gloss over this particular verse and think this is not a very important verse, but this actually is a very important verse, because what Gopal Bhatta and Sanatana Goswami are saying here is that what is the proof? What is the proof that the mantra is non-different from Krishna? What is the proof that his holy names and his mantras are non-different from him? The proof is only in the pudding, we say in English. The proof is in the eating. The proof is in the actual chanting and meditation of these mantras and the use of these mantras in puja. So by using these mantras in puja, by doing japa of these mantras, by meditating on the form that these mantras help us to worship, then we can understand. Only by doing that, then we can understand the non-difference of the mantra with the deity. So, it's who can say that they have siddhi of the mantra and they actually can really perceive the deity in the mantra? It's very, elevated position. But anyway, the point is given here that that's the goal. That's the goal to be achieved, right? By getting the mantra from the guru and knowing all these things and applying all these things in a certain way, and the meditation. That's the goal. Okay, so then continue on with text 236. Some devotees perform nyasa on the ornaments of the Lord. So while invoking the material elements, while chanting mantras that begin with a vowel and contain words like hamsa. Okay, so that's a little bit cryptic. We have to look in the commentary to understand exactly how it's done. So right now, let's go and look and see how 236 is applied. This is called Bhushana Nyasa, Antar Bhushana. Is it Antar Bhushana Nyasa or Bahir? Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so this Antar Bhushana Nyasa. So I think was it mentioned back there that it was Antar? I'm not sure. Yeah, I think we're still doing everything within the heart here. Right. Okay. So let's look at this particular nyasa here. Okay. So perform this is coming from the verse that we just spoke about, 236 in the 5th chapter. Performing the following nyasa, right, on the different ornaments of the Lord within your heart as follows. Okay, so now the ornaments are like the Kaustubha gem, the necklace, the earrings, the crown. There are different things which are ornaments that the Lord wears. His different ornaments. These are not to be confused with the there are ayudas or weapons that the Lord has, which are basically 5, right? The chakra, the conch, the sword, the mace, and the bow, right? So these are not to be confused with the weapons. However, the weapons are also considered ornaments. They're not only just like we have sometimes people in a parade, military people will wear a sword, and there are different types of swords. There are also ornamental swords that just look nice. They look nice. They're there for show only. So the Lord's weapons actually work. They can be actually used to kill demons in this material world. But in the case of Vaikuntha, there are no demons. So the meditation on the Lord is having these different weapons. The weapons are not actually used as weapons. They are considered also like ornaments. So here we have this word ornament or bhushana in Sanskrit. It can alankara or bhushana. It can mean also the weapons, but in this case, I think it's going to just mean the specific ornaments and not the weapons. There might be some other nyasas that have to do with the weapons specifically, but I don't know if it will be mentioned here because, of course, we're worshiping Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna is not is more lovable. He doesn't have a lot of weapons and things like that, especially in Vrindavan. Maybe when he's in some other leelas, like in Kurukshetra or something, he has a wheel and he has a paunch and different things, but not in Vrindavan. So anyway, so here we have the Bhushana Nyasa, and apparently it's Antar Bhushana Nyasa, which means it's internal. So Om Am Klim Avyaktatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha. Kundale. Kundale means the 2 earrings. This is a nyasa on the earrings. Om Am Krim Mahadatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha. Mayura Sikhi Piche. Okay, this is a specific nyasa that's done on the peacock feather. Peacock feather. So this will be applicable to Krishna, because Krishna wears a peacock feather, especially in Vrindavan. We don't know other forms of God that do this. So this is Krishna wearing the peacock feather, Gopal. So Om Im Shnam. Now you notice here, okay, so notice here that there are different parts of the Gopal Mantra which are cut up and put inside this. Klim comes first, then Krim, right? We have Kri, the syllable Kri, which is from Krishna, and then we have Shnam, right? Krishna. So we have two Krishna and then Ya, right? Krishna. So Krishnaya, right? And then we're going to have Govindaya, right? So it's going to be cut up into syllables. Remember, so there are 18 syllables, so I'm expecting 18 different mantras here. So Om Am Klim Avyaktatmani Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha. That seems to be common. Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha, coming after each one of these things. So Om Am Krim Mahadatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha, peacock feather. Om Im Shnam, and these beads that come first. First of all, we have an Om beads, then we have a bead that is based on the vowels, the different vowels in the Sanskrit alphabet, followed by Anushwara, and then we have the different syllables of the Gopal Mantra followed by the Anushwara, and then we have mention of the different the different type of nyasa that's being done here. Ahankaratmani Sahasra Shirsha Purushaya Namaha. Karot Pali means ear ornaments. Okay, so there's some other ear ornaments which are different from kundalas, which are different from earrings. Not exactly sure what the current, not Pali, It may be something that goes on top rather than on the bottom. On the bottom of the ear, we have the earrings. On the top, there may be some other ornament. Because it says here, Karna Utpala, right? So it's probably on top part of the ear. So, Om Im Yam Mana Atmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha on the tilak. Krishna's tilak is in the front. And for exactly the type of tilak and the form of the tilak that Lord Krishna wears in Vrindavan, we have to look at different texts and we have to see what they say. Many times the texts with Lord Vishnu talk about Kasturi tilaka, that he wears a musk tilak. But Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, we don't. We have to look and see what the Dhyana mantra is and what the exact description of the tilak that Lord Krishna wears. So Om Gom Buddhyatmane Sahasrashirsha Purushaya Namaha Mukta Kundale. Mukta Kundale means pearl earrings. Om Vim Ahankaratmane Sahasrashirsha Purushaya Namaha Vanamalaya, right? The garland, right? So a garland is a mala, right? Even a rosary bead, a set of beads is a mala. So a garland is a round sort of thing made of flowers or made of beads like that. Here it's made of flowers and leaves that come from the vana, from the forest. So it's called a vana mala. So Krishna wears a vana mala. He wears a garland of forest leaves and flowers in Vrindavan. Om Rim Nam Chidatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha Hare. Hara means on the hara. Hare means on the hara, on the necklace. Hare, on the necklace that he's wearing. He wears a necklace. Om Rim Yam Atmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha Keyure. Keyure here means bracelets, arm bracelets. Right? These are on the arms, normally on the upper arms. But it could be on the lower arms. I don't know, forearms, possibly. Okay, so Om Rim Gom Antaratmane Sahasrashir Shaya Purushaya Namaha Valaye. Valaye are armlets worn on the wrists. So if they're worn down on the wrists, that type of like bangles or bracelets there on the wrists, then these are called Vala. Okay, so then Om Rim Pim Paramatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha Katake. Katake means bracelets, another type of bracelet. And then the exact difference in this jewelry, different type of ornaments, we have to talk to an Indian jeweler perhaps, or somebody more knowledgeable in the different jewels. But anyhow, we have to meditate like this when we say these different mantras. Om Em Jam Jnanatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha Ratnang Guriyake, right? Which means jeweled finger rings. So on the fingers he has jeweled rings. On Om Aim Nam Pranatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha Kaustubhe jewel and Srivatsa, white hair, curl of hair or white mole on Vishnu, or a mole on Vishnu's chest. So it's interesting that it says here both the Kaustuba and the Srivatsa with one mantra. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why that is. Normally, people think of the Kaustuba and the Srivatsa as two separate items of worship, as bhushanas, as ornaments. Okay, so anyway, Om Ram Sang Shakyat Mane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha on the Kati Vanye is a girdle, right? So girdle means like it's sort of like a belt. There's a belt that goes around the waist of Lord Krishna, and this you may have seen these jeweled belts which are worn by brides in weddings, or which are worn by Bharatanatyam dancers. That's what we're talking about here. Okay, so Om Aum Lam Om Aum Lam Jivatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha. Pita Vastre, the yellow dhoti. So Lord Krishna wears a Pita Vastram, a yellow. This is very common for even other forms of Vishnu, that Vishnu wears a yellow cloth. He wears this yellow lower cloth or dhoti. So here, Lord Krishna is wearing, is conceived of as wearing a yellow dhoti also. So Om, Am, Bham, Ragatmane, Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha, Nupure. Nupure. Nupura is sometimes, it's an anklet. But it may be an anklet here, I'm not sure. Right? Nupure means anklet. So then Om, Aha, Yam, Yonyatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha. This is Jangam Bhushana. Janga Bhushana is like shin guards, or like sometimes when soldiers are going, when people are, it can be the spats, what we call spats in English, or mud gaiters. You know, they have these on the shins, on the lower leg, below the knee, and above the feet. Right, there are sometimes some things wrapped around there, and this is. And it can be beautiful. It can be made of metal and gold, and it can be covered with jewels. Also, it's to prevent, when you walk, it's to prevent mud and dirt from coming on the lower legs when you're walking through a dirty place. Okay, so this is called a Janga Bhushana. Yeah, not necessary so much these days, but in different eras, people would wear this different type of jeweled ornaments that would have some use, also some practical use. So Om Ham Swam Anandatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha Padangulya Keshu. Okay, so that means on the Padangulas. The Padangulas means, the Pada means the feet, the angulas of the feet, means the fingers of the feet, literally, and we call them in English toes, right? So toe rings. So there are different toe rings that he also wears, beautiful toe rings. Om Saha Ham Prakriyatmane Sahasra Shirshaya Purushaya Namaha Chakra Brahme, or the discus. So Lord Krishna has a discus. He has this discus weapon like that. So it's interesting. Even here in Hari Bhakti Vilas, the idea is that we're doing some Nyasa on the different ornaments of Lord Krishna, supposed to be Gopal according to the Gopal Mantra, and yet still there is an idea that he has this chakra. He has this chakra or discus like that. So normally we won't see in Vrindavan, we won't see this chakra. So we just have to imagine that it's unmanifest. So if we're thinking of Lord Krishna as standing there with his flute and being in his form as Vrindavan Krishna, we won't think of him as having a chakra, right? So if we're going to perform this particular type of nyasa, we should think that the chakra is unmanifest because he's in Vrindavan. So, but anyhow, it's included. It's included here in Hari Bhakti Vilas for some reason. Okay, so, and we didn't. What's very interesting also is that we have no mention of the flute or the staff, or even a goad. Sometimes Krishna has a whip or a goad, something that he uses with the cows to get the cows to move. So, as in South India, there are some Krishnas like in Madurantakam in Tamil Nadu. There's a deity of Krishna with a cow, Gopal Krishna, and he has a small whip to get the cows to move here and there. Doesn't hurt the cow, but he just, it's just to help them to move, to control them. And he has a stick that he leans on sometimes when he's playing his flute. And so there's this flute, and there's the cane, and the whip, and there might be some stick that he uses to get the cows to move, so like that, because he's a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. So he has to have this type of paraphernalia in Vrindavan if we meditate upon him in Vrindavan. So okay, so now this antaryaga, or this meditation of the Lord in the heart, we have to perform with all the different services. Again, we're going to talk about the services later on. So Hari Bhakti Vilasa 218 to 219, after this meditation, worship of the Lord within the heart with all upacharas, after chanting 218 to 219, so after this chant. So then prarthana, right? So prarthana. Now we're going to start. Prarthana is we're going to do swagata, which is the first one of these upacharas or services. So let's go back now to the original text. Look at the original text, and then we'll talk more about upacharas. So back to the original text. And what's interesting is I don't remember seeing the word hamsa in that particular nyasa. So I'm not, it does say here that, it may be swahamsa. Hamsa, yeah, okay. It's there in the Mula text, but yeah, it's interesting. I don't remember seeing it there. Anyway, so continuing on with text 237. Ata bahyopachare antar puja. So what is the process of internal and with external paraphernalia, right? The process of internal worship of the Lord with external paraphernalia, right? So here he says, after meditating upon how Sri Krishna has seated himself on the altar in his heart, the devotee should worship him according to the prescribed rules and regulations. By offering him an asana, a seat, greetings means welcome, padya, which is water for washing the feet, argya, which is water offered to a guest for the use of the guest, and it can be sprinkled over the head, or it could be used for washing the hands. Most normally it's used for washing the hands. Achamaniya is like the achamana that we do when we sip water ritually to purify ourselves. We give water also to the Lord. This achamaniya can serve as quenching his thirst, but it can also serve as a ritual cleansing of the mouth. Achamaniya, so taking water. And normally this padya, agya, and achamaniya are offered in different numbers, right? Normally the padya, or the water on the feet, is offered twice because there are 2 feet. The argya is offered once. So we wash the hand with 1 spoon of water, the 2 hands together with 1 spoon of water. The achamaniya is usually offered 3 times, either to the right hand or to the mouth of the deity. Or sometimes I've seen people even offer to the right hand and then the mouth of the deity. The idea is he's sipping it, so we can place it before his mouth, or we can place it before his right hand for him to sip, just as we would if there was a yajamana, a person that we were guiding through a different ritual, and we want that person to sip water, then we would just simply put water in that person's right hand and he would sip it in his right hand. He wouldn't offer it to his mouth.
Swami,
yeah.
One question. Should we wash the hands between each of these upacharas, like padyam and argyam? Should we
wash the hands?
Yeah.
Some people do, and other people don't. So we have to see. I don't think it'll be mentioned exactly. It may be mentioned how to purify the item, the next item that we're offering. Normally, if we offer something, then we consider it to be prasadam, or we consider it to be the remnants or shesha of leftover from the Lord's service, and therefore many people do, and there's different ways of doing it. Okay, so sometimes you'll have a plate. You have a plate, and you have the 5 vessels on the plate, which have padyagachmaniya, shnaniya, sudodaka, like that. And then on the plate itself, there might be a little water also, and the person can touch that water, in between, or he takes a spoon of water from the sudodaka or from the sarvatatoyam patra, and he puts it on his hand and washes it. Otherwise, we also mentioned before that there is some water which is kept in a vessel at the side for washing the hands. Most notably, what a lot of people do is they have a karaka or a spouted water pot on the side, which has water in it. And what they'll do is they just take a hold of the spout and tip a hold of the spout, tip the water a little bit onto the right hand, and that and then wash the hand like that. Sometimes you can have a full pot of water and you can just tip it. You put your hand over the top of it and tip it to the side, and that is washing your hand. But other times you take some other people, they take a spoon. They take a spoon and they take some water and wash their hands like that. So it's different people. There's different exact prayogas, and probably what Hari Bhakti Vilasa is going to say about that, it's going to say, do it according to the way your sampradaya does it. And so like if you go to Radharaman, I think you'll see he has a water pot when the pujari is doing arti in Radharaman temple in Vrindavan, and he'll have a water pot and he'll tip the water pot, he'll put his hand over the top of the water pot and tip it a little bit. It'll get some water on his hand and purify his hand, and then he'll, that's a way where you can even in that sense, if you're holding a bell in the left hand, you can even with the right hand just simply wash your hand without putting down the bell. Yeah, so there are some advantages to that because you don't have to put the bell down. Because every time you put the bell down, then you have to pick the bell up. And how do you pick the bell up? The normal method for picking the bell up is you have to pick up the bell with the right hand and then transfer it to the left hand, right? And then, and then when you put it down, you have to transfer it back to the right hand and put it down. But some people don't observe that also. So there are different details, and different people do slightly different things. And sometimes you will see, upacharas which are offered without the bell too. Some people they offer upacharas with the bell, always up with the bell. Sometimes they're except for the arti, except for the lamp and the food, people are not ringing the bell. But sometimes they're ringing and then there's another thing too. Sometimes people ring the bell in a certain way for some upacharas and in a different way for other upacharas. So for instance, you have a bell and the bell has a clapper inside, has a piece of metal inside. When you move the bell like this, the clapper will strike one side of the bell and the other side of the bell and make that noise, right? So some people, when they're offering many different articles like that, they'll be just tipping the bell in a way so it just hits one side. So it'll be ding, 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 like that. But then when they offer arti or when they offer food, right, they'll be ringing it more vigorously and it'll hit both sides. So some people have that also as a prayoga, that they can only hit, they do it very lightly on one side, and then it's when they're offering the arti and when they're offering the food, they ring it on both sides. Some temples I've seen in South India, they even have another priest to ring the bell, so that many times they have another priest to ring the bell. And sometimes that priest, when they're offering arti or they're offering the food, that person will have two bells and he'll be ringing them furiously during that time. So how we purify the hands, how we the order that we offer the upacharas, how we offer the upacharas, in between what do we do, how do we purify them, and all of that is going to be explained maybe a little bit here. And if we don't get full details in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, then we have to look at the different temples in our sampradaya and the way that people do it in our sampradaya and follow that, and try and perhaps there might be some other pramanas from other shastras on puja that can help us to establish an exact detailed method of how to do these things. But like I said, there's a lot of variation, and sometimes you will see, even though the standard number of upacharas and the standard way of offering them is understood by most people, by many people, there will be differences in how people offer them. And anybody who you can read that book on Smarta Puja by that German scholar. If anybody doesn't have it, they can get in touch with me. I'll give it to him. He wrote a nice thesis on that, and it explains in detail about upacharas some more. But we're going to hear some more about upacharas now. So not exactly sure about the exact answer to that. I think the answer to that is that question is not fixed. We can't say that there's a fixed way of doing that. So, of course, we know from before that we established some water to wash the hands. When exactly we use that water to wash the hands, under what circumstances, and in what part of the procedure, that hasn't been discussed yet. So we're just beginning to talk about upacharas here. But upacharas are the main thing. They're the main part of the worship, the services, the different services that we offer, how we offer them. So it makes sense to purify yourself before offering each one, right? But on the other hand, sometimes people are, we want to do it in an efficient manner also. We want to do the worship in an efficient manner. So there has to be we have to make we have to sometimes compromise procedure and efficiency. So maybe the procedure becomes too complicated and too extensive and too difficult, like that. So for instance, you could, if you overthink this, you could think, oh well, every time if I offer Achmana, once I've offered the first Achmana to him, I have to offer it 3 times. So once I've offered the first Achmana, should I not then wash my hands again before I offer the second Achmana? You can overthink it like that. So it could become very time consuming if you did things like that, right? So normally when we won't see people offering Achmana and then, but there is a possibility that you do have situations. I've seen puja where people are offering something and they immediately throw it out and then they wash again and then before they offer the next thing, right? Even if it's the same upachara, but it's the second or third time. So it can get complicated, and let's just try to first understand the general upacharas, or the general ways of offering things, and then we'll see how to make a prayoga from that. So anyway, the rules and regulations by offering him the asana, the greetings, the padya, the achmaniya, the shnaniya, which is the bath, right, which can be offered in different ways, of course, because you can actually bathe the deity, or you can sprinkle the deity with water, depending on the type of deity and depending upon the size of the deity. Vastra means offering clothes, and there are also substitutes for these. Like if you can't offer clothes to the deity because the deity already has clothes on, or it's a painting and it already has clothes painted on. Puna achmaniya. Puna achmaniya means the achmaniya that comes after something. So you offer achmana, you offer water for washing the mouth or rinsing the mouth, and then you offer something else, and you have to rinse the mouth again. For instance, when we offer madhuparka, we should offer achmana, but then we should also offer achmana again after the madhuparka. And some people say when offering vastra, you should offer achmana after that. You should offer achmana after offering the pavita. You should offer achmana after naivedya, of course, and some other times. So that we have to discuss that. So then ornaments, bhushanas, different. After we put the vastra and the pavita, the sacred thread, then we also have to put the ornaments, different ornaments like the necklace and the kaustuba and the kirita and all these things. Then it says water. I don't know what it means by just water here. Sandalwood paste, ganda, right, which can go on the feet, it can go on the hands, it can go on different places, and flowers, right. These are just some of the things. We're going to see a list soon of different upacharas, but here it's just being mentioned in general. Now here I don't see exactly where it says water. Asanadi. Asanadi means beginning with the seat. Pushpantai, and ending with the flowers. Ending with the flowers. So whether that ending flowers is the flower that we offer at the end to finish off the puja, I'm not sure, like that. So we have to, the exact yata vidi, okay, so according to the vidi. So there'll be a particular video, particular prayoga, step-by-step procedure. Let's continue on. Text 238. One should then worship the flute that the Lord has placed to his mouth. So Lord Krishna's got a flute, right? The flower garland on his chest, the Vanamala. The mark Srivatsa above his right nipple. So on the right side of the chest is the Srivatsa. The Kaustuba gem, which is on the left side of the chest, right? So there are some mantras for this, which we've seen in Archana Padidi, Ete Ganda Pushpe Omam, Dakshastanorde Shrivasaya Namaha, Swayastanorde Kaustubaya Namaha. Stana means the breast or the chest. So Stanorde means on the top of the chest, on the top part of the right chest. Right, Dakshina means the right chest. Swaya means the left part of the chest. Okay. So even though the Kaustuba normally hangs down the middle, sometimes when we conceive of it on the Lord, it's hanging to the left. Okay. Whereas the Srivatsa is there on the right side of the chest. Continuing on, text 239, a Vaishnava should next apply sandalwood powder mixed with water, which is a paste, right, to the transcendental body of the Lord, and then decorate his entire body with tilak using the ring finger. Okay, so the idea is after offering this ganda or this anulepanam, it's a type of paste made of sandalwood powder and water, that he also and we're going to discuss these different upacharas too, because there's a type of thing called ganda here, which has not just sandalwood, but it has camphor or it has aguru in it. It has these different ingredients in it too. So it's not that it's just necessarily only sandalwood and water, but there are other things mixed in there as well. So then he says it should decorate the entire body with tilak. So is this a reference to putting different tilaks on the Lord's body, on Lord Krishna's body? I don't know whether I'm not exactly sure of that. So text 40, according to the prescribed method, the devotee should then take handfuls of 5 kinds of flowers. So he's got 5 kinds of flowers, and he should take handfuls of them, right? Which is called pushpanjali, where you take a handful of flowers. It can be with one hand or it can be with both hands. As well as some green and blackish tulsi leaves, right? So there are different types of tulsi. There's what we call the Shama tulsi, and there's the Rama tulsi, which is a different color, which may be the same plant, but it's a different color. And offer them at the lotus feet of the Lord while chanting the Mula Mantra. So this is after offering these different pujas to the flute and the flower garland, the Srivatsa and the Kaustuba, and offering some sandalwood paste and tilak, then he then offers pushpanjali to the Lord with these 5 kinds of flowers, and as well as tulsi leaves with the Mula Mantra. So Krishnaya Govindaya Gopajana Vallabhaya Swaha, to the lotus feet of the Lord. He should then offer a handful of white and red flowers to the chest, some of Lord's chest, to some white and red lotus flowers to his head. Some tulsi leaves should then be placed on his head. And finally, the flowers and tulsi leaves should be offered to his entire body. One should then offer the Lord incense, a ghee lamp, food or naivedyam, bhoga, and a mouth freshener, which is such as betel nuts, which is probably given here as tambalam. Right? So we have it all mentioned here. See, gupam, deepam, naivedya, mukhavasa. Mukhavasadi doesn't necessarily mean with betel nut, but pan is with betel nut. But mukhavasadi, it means sweet spices to perfume the breath after taking a meal. These are offered. Okay. So then it says, 241, while worshipping Shri Krishna, it's appropriate to please him with singing and playing musical instruments. If one is unable to perform external worship of the Lord, then he should offer everything in his mind while chanting the appropriate mantras. Okay, so if we don't have any of these things, we don't have any of these items to offer the Lord, we can offer them in the mind and we can chant the mantra out loud. Right. So the glories of Manasa Puja. So we're going to talk about the glories of Manasa Puja next. Let us look, first of all, at the procedure and see if we get anything more about the procedure. Okay, so the procedure to start with is with the Swagata. So there's a prayer here for Swagata, for welcoming the Lord, right? Swagata Deva Devesha, Sanido Bhavakeshava, Grahana Manasim Pujam, Yatartha Hari Bhavinam. So, O Keshava, O Lord of Lords, kindly appear according to your sweet will. I am prepared to worship you without duplicity. Please accept my Manasi Puja or mental worship. And this is from 220 in Har Bhakti Vilasa. As we notice, we keep going back to certain sections because that's how the order that it has to come in. After meditating on how Krishna has seated himself on the altar in his heart, the devotee should worship him according to the prescribed rules and regulations. Notice, remember, this is all manasika puja. This is all mental worship that we've got up to now. We haven't got to the external worship yet, but this has to be done first, the manasika puja. And in fact, Sanatana Goswami in his commentary says that this is much more important to do this manasika puja than the external worship. So after meditating on how Shri Krishna seated himself on the altar in his heart, the devotee should worship him according to the prescribed rules and regulations by offering him an asana, greetings, padya, argya, achmaniya, shnaniya, vastra, punachmaniya, ornaments of water, sandalwood paste, and flowers that we just discussed. We just saw that is the translation of text 237. After offering worship to Lord Krishna, one in his heart again, one has to also worship his flute, Garland, Srivatsa on the right side of the chest, and Kaustup on the left side of the chest as follows. This is in the next verse, right? So here is the actual prayoga. Ete ganda pushpe om Shri Mukha Venave namaha. Ete ganda pushpe om Vakshashi Vanamalai namaha. Right? So we're offering. When we say ete ganda pushpe, the word ete means this. It's a form of the word this. Pushpa means a flower, right? Pushpa means a flower. Pushpe, so pushpam, pushpe, pushpani is the way that we decline pushpa. It's a neuter noun in Sanskrit. So pushpam, pushpe, pushpani. So when we say pushpe, it means two flowers. We're offering two flowers to him like that. So now it's important for people who are doing worship to know a little bit of Sanskrit if they're going to use this particular method of worship. If we're going to use these particular types of mantras, there are bunches where we use the word this, and we just say this ganda. These are two flowers. What we're saying here, ete, these are two flowers with sandal paste. These are two flowers with sandal paste, or two flower petals with sandal paste. Yeah. And then we're offering it. We may offer it in arti fashion, and then we may stick it on the flute, or we may throw it into the sarjini, the throw-out pot. Right? Maybe we don't stick it, but we just simply offer it, meditate, like that. And of course, remember, this is all being done mentally. So ede ganda pushpe. These are two sandalwood paste flowers with sandalwood paste. And then we offer it with a mantra for the flute. So venave means venu. Venu is a flute. Venave means unto the flute in his mouth, unto the mukha venave. Right. Then eteganda pushpe is similar. We're going to offer two flowers with sandalwood paste. We could also say we could offer more than 2 flowers. In case we offer more than 2 flowers or 2 flower petals, we say pushpani. In case we say only offer 1, then we say pushpam. Right? So that's the idea. You have to know a little bit of Sanskrit how to make it singular, dual, and plural for the thing that you're going to offer. Om Vakshashi Vanamalayi Namaha. Right? To the flower garland. Right? So normally we would offer it and we throw it into our pot, or we could offer it and we could actually touch it and place it on the flower garland. Either way. So Edeganda Pushpe Om Daksha Stanorde. Daksha means or Daksha or Dakshina means the right side. Stanorde means Stana Urde means on the top of the chest, right side of the chest. Shrivatsaya Namaha. Shrivatsaya is again a mole or a white curl of hair on the right side of Lord Krishna's chest, also of all Vishnu deities, and it represents the goddess Lakshmi or Shri, his consort. So then Eteganda Pushpe Om Svaya on the left side of the chest, Svaya Stanorde, Kaustubhaya Namaha. Okay, so that's the actual mantras for doing that. While performing Manasa Puja, one should offer the 16 upacharas. Now, we haven't got to the number yet of upacharas, but normally there's a normal system of worship where we offer 16, but we can also offer different numbers. There can be more than 16, there can be less than 16, and that we'll discuss coming up. To the Lord within the mind by chanting all the mantras. For doing so, and this is shown in Hari Bhakti Vilas 241, which we haven't come to yet, which we will in a moment. Before beginning to worship the Lord externally. So this is done internally before we begin to worship the Lord externally, and worship of the Lord externally comes up begins at sloka 248, so verse 248. One is now ready to perform external pujas and to chant and use the Gopal Mantra and other mantras. Okay, so this is the procedure up until this point to be able to worship the Lord externally. Okay, so let's go back to the text and we'll continue on the original text. So continuing on, first of all, we're going to have a little bit of, now that we've talked about internal worship, we've talked about Manasika Puja, right? We don't fully understand it yet because we don't understand how to offer the external articles of worship, the external services of worship, because that's going to come up in a little while. But once we understand that...
Just one question. Just one question to Manasika Puja. So if we have to chant these mantras, are these mantras then chanted audibly, or are we chanting them also in the mind?
Okay, so let's just have a look there. See, now it says here in the section on Antar Puja, this is still a section on Antar Puja because at the end of the section, it gives like a Mahatmyam. Here we're just about to talk about the Mahatmyam, the glories of doing Manasika Puja. So that normally the way it works in Hari Bhakti Vilas is first of all you give a definition of the thing, then you give the rules and regulations for it, then you sometimes show exactly how to do it step by step. And then at the end of discussing that particular topic, before moving on to the next topic, which will be external worship here, right? Before moving on to the next topic, we have the Mahatmya. So we have here 241, right, which is still in the section on internal worship. So here it says that one should offer. Now, what is it mentioned here? Also, what's the topic? Now, what does it say here? Where's the? It says here. Okay, so Antar Puja means internal worship. These headings are there in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So Ata, thus internal worship, Bahyopachara, with external paraphernalia, with external, not paraphernalia, but upacharas, external services. So we're thinking of those external services, right? Because, okay, we can't do mental worship with, how will we do mental worship with real incense? I don't know how we would do that. So we're meditating upon those external things. Those external things are a lamp and incense and food a bath and tilak, all these different things that we're meditating upon, right? We're meditating upon those. So we're conceiving of those things in the mind. Now, can we also conceive of in the mind and chant the mantras in the mind? Maybe that's possible. But normally it seems that why would it say in 41 here? It says here, after discussing offering those different, services in the mind, it says here, first of all, now it's saying please him by singing and playing musical instruments. Now, what does that mean? Do we play them externally, or do we think about singing and playing musical instruments internally? It's hard to say. If one is unable to perform external worship of the Lord, it says here, if you can't actually do external worship of the Lord, then he should offer everything within his mind, chanting the appropriate mantras. He should offer everything in his mind while chanting the appropriate mantras. Is he chanting the appropriate mantras in the mind? So I would suggest to you, you can do everything in your mind. Everything can be done in the mind. You can sing in your mind. You can play musical instruments in your mind. You can chant mantras in your mind. You can do all those things. In the section on japa in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it talks about the chanting of mantras and things like that are done in different ways. There is japa simply means repetition of a mantra, right? The process of japa, the actual definition of japa is janma nishedh papanasana iti japaha. So janma nishedh papanasana iti japaha. The japa is the process by which rebirth is destroyed, sin is destroyed, and rebirth is destroyed. That's the process of japa. So it doesn't actually say repetition, but japa indicates chanting a mantra again and again, or saying something, right? Now, the japa can be done in three ways, according to Hari Bhakti Vilasa. It can be done manasika, it can be done upamamsu, or it can be done bahya. It can be done loudly. So it can be done loudly, it can be done softly, murmuring, or it can be done in the mind. The hardest thing to do is to do it in the mind, but it is also considered the most fruitful, right? It's considered thousands of times more fruitful than doing it out loud. So if you can do it in the mind, do it in the mind. If you can't do it in the mind, you can do it upamamsu, which is murmuring. The difference is in the mind. If you chant something in the mind, the lips don't move. The lips and tongue and throat don't move. There's no vibration of the vocal cords. There's nothing. It's in the mind. You can have your mouth closed. With upamamsu, you are saying the mantra softly, but it's so softly that somebody sitting next to you cannot hear it. It's inaudible to the person next to you. That is upamamsu. And then the third way is vachika, right? What did I say before? Vachika. Anyway, vachika means loudly. So vachika means simply another person can hear you. When you say it, another person can see it. Either way, we can chant mantras and we can offer services and chant mantras in any way, in any of these three ways, because that's the definition of how to chant different mantras and things. So we can do it in any different ways. Normally, I think people just do it mentally, but if it is more difficult to do it mentally, but conceive of chanting the mantras mentally in Viganda Pushpe or Mukha Venave Namaha. Can you mentally conceive of doing that? Yeah, maybe. It's a lot easier, especially when you're starting to learn and everything like that, to at least chant them upamamsu, whisper them. Nothing wrong with saying them externally. So I would suggest saying them externally or softly. If you're really able to do it, then you can simply meditate upon them. I don't see any rule saying that you have to do one, any or either. So if we come across some other description of internal worship, of mental worship, For instance, in Sri Sampradaya, there's a Manasika Puja, and there's just a couple of slokas that you chant. And you just chant them out loud, and then you meditate upon the meaning of them. And you don't even have to think about all the upacharas, but you can. But here, he's specifically talking about going through the process in your mind that you're going to do externally. The reason why we can't fully think about how to do that now is because we haven't understood the external worship. Once we understand the process of the external worship, then we should see if we can do that internally, and how internally can we do that, and whether we need to chant the mantras along with that. Anyway, like I said, I don't think it's possible that there's a hard and fast rule that one has to chant out loud, or one has to chant softly, or one has to chant within the mind. All those options are there. Those three options are there. Maybe there's a preferred method. I don't know. But very difficult to find anybody who's even doing this. So, so if we find somebody, if we go to India and we find somebody who's actually trying to perform this the way it's written in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, then we can ask those people. But as far as I know, there's nothing being said here about how to do it. So I would just, to me, it's easiest to think about it in your mind and to just say the mantras out, to say the mantras out loud. Okay. It doesn't have to be loud.
Anyway, there is also two types in Gaudiya Vaishnava. Some people are trying to conceive of this Siddha Deha, and then perhaps it's easier not to say it because you are in completely another dimension and another body.
Okay. Siddha Deha worship, it's all mental. It's all mental worship, right?
Yeah.
Now, there are Raganuga Bhaktas who have deities. Like even the Goswamis had external deities, right? They had their deities. So they did perform some external worship. They definitely did perform some external worship. But their external worship maybe didn't conform to what's being seen here. The main worship they were performing was the internal worship, and so when somebody's absorbed in a trance and they're thinking about their gopi body or their cowherd boy body or their spiritual siddha deha, then who knows what upacharas are being offered. Here, this procedure in Hari Bhakti Vilasa is definitely not a procedure of Raganuga Bhaktas. This is Vaidhi Bhakti. This is a procedure for worshipping Krishna according to Vaidhi Bhakti. I do not think that you will find any Raganuga Bhakta, Gaudiya Vaishnava Raganuga Bhakta who would even think about Krishna having a chakra in Vrindavan, wouldn't even think to worship to worship Krishna in certain ways. There are some things here, all that Swadeha Pita Puja, where we're thinking of something as being a Sweatadweep and all this kind of stuff, and how conceiving of when we're chanting, why a Raganuga Bhakta would never do that. A Raganuga Bhakta would simply be meditating in his mind that what does Raganuga mean? Raga Anuga. Anuga means he's following the Raga. He's following the Raga. The people who are his examples are called Ragatmikas. The Ragatmika Vaishnavas are like Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd boys, the gopis, the different associates of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. These are Ragatmika devotees. So the Raganuga Bhakta chooses one of them, right? Chooses one of them to be his guide, like that. And maybe he conceives of his guru as being in the form of one of those personalities, teaching him to perform that particular type of service. But the service may not conform. The service may not conform to the upacharas that we see in Vaidhi Bhakti. There may be different upacharas. Now, there are Raganuga Bhaktas who do deity worship. They do deity worship, and they do offer, incense and lamps and different things like that. But there are also other Raganuga Bhaktas, and there are Raganuga people who offer other things, or maybe neglect to offer some of the things which are offered in regular puja like that. So, there might be, you might specifically be offering pan, or you might be offering whatever. There might be some service that Krishna or Radha Krishna want you to perform that is not part of these 16 services. Very, very lightly there because the Raganuga Bhakta, in Raganuga Manasika Puja, the person is also meditating upon different leelas throughout the day. That Lord Krishna, there's this Astakaliya Leela, there's the eight divisions of the day, and different leelas that Krishna performs in those. So that person will be thinking, okay, I'm this person in Vrindavan, and I want to offer some service to Krishna or to one of Krishna's dear devotees, right? As a sort of a helper to help with Krishna's worship, and therefore, or Radha's worship, whatever. And then therefore at this time of the day, Krishna or Radha is doing this, and therefore Radha and Krishna are doing this, and therefore this person who's guiding me is doing this, and therefore I should do this to help him or to help her. And that's what that person will be doing. So therefore it's not it'll be really unstructured. This is very structured, this type of worship. That is also structured, but it's a different form of structure. It's a different type of structure. So it's the structure according to the Leela, whereas this is not a structure according to Leela. This is a set sort of method of worship of a king in a palace, or in temple worship, or of a guest in the house. That's a very set sort of way of dealing with somebody. Somebody comes to your house, you have a certain set way of dealing with them, and as a guest. And you go to a king in the palace, there are certain things which should be offered and happen to be offered like that. The Raganuga puja is according to the Leela. So the Leela may be different in different times of the day, different times of the night, and it may involve different services and different people, and so I can't really say, not knowing. There may be some. There are some paddities. There are some paddities for Raganuga worship. Normally, I don't know if it's up to the teacher, of course, how he teaches the student to worship. The teacher may teach the teacher may not teach this type of Vaidhi Bhakti like that. Hari Bhakti Vilas was written as a guidebook, but it's not just a guidebook for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, it's a guidebook for all sorts of Vaishnavas. So it has to present a sort of a paradigm or an example for people who want to worship the Lord. It can't be tailor-made for every devotee. So one devotee, one devotee may want to worship Rama, one may want to worship Narasimha, like that. It's a paradigm. It's an example. He's given an example of worshiping Krishna, and in according to the rules and regulations of Vaidhi Bhakti. He's given that. Anything different from that, worshipping of other deities, worshipping of in a different way, in Raganuga according to Leelas, it's not covered here. For that, you have to have specialized, you have other padatis, and you have also specialized guidance by the guru. And so it's beyond the scope of this text. That's all I can say, really. Yeah. So
it's more formal worship. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely formal worship. Sure. I mean, somebody it's also possible to think of oneself as a servant in Vaikuntha and be very formal, and that there are different activities going on in different Ram Leela or Narasimha Leela, whatever it is. It might be more, it might also be formal like that, but it also doesn't exactly follow. It might not exactly follow the system that's being outlined here. The system is sort of general here. It's being adapted slightly. It's being adapted slightly for Krishna. So like we saw when you do the Pita Puja, normally when you do the Pita Puja, you think of, the ocean of milk and Sweatadweep and everything like that. And that's what he's saying. He's saying, if you're a devotee of Krishna, specifically in Vrindavan, then you can substitute for the ocean of milk. You can substitute Mathura, the Mathura Mandala, and within Mathura Mandala there's Vrindavan, and within Vrindavan there's the groves of Vrindavan and the Kadamba trees, and you don't have to think of Sweatadweep or Ananta or all these things like that. So it just depends exactly on the student, and that's why normally I don't think Hari Bhakti Vilasa is not meant for. It's meant to guide teachers, I think, rather than to guide students. The teacher should read it, the teacher should understand it, and for the particular student, he has to translate it or specify exactly how the student should do it, right? According to the student. If you just take it as a general manual, yeah, okay, it's a general manual, but then you need to have somebody to explain it to you and to say, okay, you don't need to do this, or you need to do that, or yeah.
Yeah, interesting outlook.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll get a better idea of it after we get more into, and when we finish the main version of puja, then we'll see in some of the other chapters when they talk about different festivals like Janmashtami and different things like that. There'll also be, for instance, in the discussion on Janmashtami in Hari Bhakti Vilas, there's a lot of different mantras for offering different pujas and different items. We have to offer argya in Janmashtami. We have to offer argya to the Rohini Nakshatra. We have to worship that goddess Rohini of the nakshatra that Krishna was born under, the star he was born under. We have to, worship a deity of Mother Yasoda, or whatever, Devaki, whatever it is, like that. So that's adaptable, those sort of things. And this is just the sort of an outline of the daily worship, but it doesn't. It's not necessarily that the way everybody is going to do it, especially not Raganuga Bhaktis. There are other texts. There are definitely other texts about Raganuga Bhakti. But I think it's important to, first of all, no matter what you're going to practice, I think it's important, first of all, to have a general understanding of what Gaudiya Vaishnava Puja is. In other words, you can go and read books about Smarta Puja. You can go and read books about, puja of different sampradayas and whatever it is like that. But if you are a Gaudiya Vaishnava, first read Hari Bhakti Vilas, get a general understanding of what Gaudiya Vaishnava Puja is supposed to be in general, right? And then you have to look specifically, obviously here, who, for instance, who in ISKCON or who in the Gaudiya Math is doing worship with Gopal Mantra? Nobody. They're all using other mantras. Well, why not? Hari Bhakti Vilas says do the Gopal Mantra, but the Gopal Mantra doesn't include Radha, and most of this, everybody else is including Radha. You can say it includes Radha because it says Gopi Jana Vallabha, but normally in these temples they have Radha Krishna, and when they worship Radha Krishna, they're going to be using Shrim Klim Radha Krishna Abhyam Namaha. They're going to be offering using that mantra. So if you don't use Gopal Mantra as your Mula Mantra for your worship, if you're not just worshipping Krishna by himself in this way, if you're using Shrim Klim Radha Krishna Abhyam Namaha, then all of these nyasas and things with Gopal Mantra, why do they have to be done? Why would they have to be done? You should be practicing getting the siddha of the Mula Mantra. The Mula Mantra in that case is Shrim Klim Radha Krishna Abhyam Namaha. That's the Mula Mantra which you use. So you should be doing Nyasa with that. There should be Dhyana with that. There should be, right? That would only make sense. So although here the example is given, we're just worshiping Krishna, but we don't find Gaudiya Vaishnavas are not just worshiping Krishna. There's no, what Gaudiya Vaishnava is saying to you, just worship Krishna. Nobody. They're all saying worship Radha Krishna. And so therefore, plus there's no mention of Chaitanya worship in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So that also has to be there. There are other texts which talk about the worship of Chaitanya, which talk about the worship of him and him in being in Navadvip and his, in the same way that we meditate on Krishna, the same sort of pitam for him and his followers and his associates and like that, and how to worship Lord Chaitanya. So all of those things have to be added for people nowadays, because they're worshiping Radha Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, right? Guru and Guru Parampara is common, right? And some of these other, devatas that are mentioned here and there about Ganesh and Devi and Shiva and Vastu and even, right, are mentioned slightly. They're not so important, but the Guru Parampara is important. That's spoken of here, worship of them, and the worship of Krishna. But there is no worship of Chaitanya. There's no worship of Radha. So that has to be added. And then for when we add that, it means that other things will fall away, because why would I spend maybe half an hour doing nyasas with the Gopal Mantra when I'm not using the Gopal Mantra for my worship of the deity? If you're worshiping, for example, right? Also, you are, there's a temple of Narasimha where you're serving. Are you going to go into the temple and do worship of Narasimha? Are you going to do Gopal Mantra nyasas before you worship Narasimha? I don't think so. You're going to do you're going to do mantras with the Mula mantras that you use. And the Mula mantras you use are not the Gopal Mantra. So unless you're worshipping Radha Krishna, or unless you're worshipping just Krishna, this is not exactly going, even though it's not a prayoga, you can make a prayoga from it, but even you make a prayoga from that, it's going to be for the worship of Krishna. So it's just an example. It's just it's to give you an idea of all the different steps in the puja. And you have to make your own prayoga. You have to make your own prayoga for Radha Krishna worship, for Chaitanya's worship, for Panchatattva's worship. And we can do that. That's not a problem. That can be done like that. But obviously, if you're worshiping Lord Chaitanya, if you're just worshiping Lord Chaitanya or Gauranitai or Panchatattva, there'll be no worship of flutes. There'll be no worship of Shri, maybe no worship of Srivatsas. Maybe there will be. I don't know. I have a book which has some more, worship of Chaitanya and some mantras for Chaitanya and everything like that. That might be interesting to go through that as well. But first of all, we should try. Normally, the system is when you study a particular method of doing something in a sampradaya, you want to try to look at the base text, the original text, and then look at texts which were written later as commentaries on those texts, which may explain certain points in more detail by different later acharyas. So we want to first of all see the original, and then just like if you study the Bhagavatam, you study the original Bhagavatam, and then you have to add to it the commentaries of different acharyas. So same thing here. There'll be other books written after. There'll be other prayogas and other books on puja. There are some books also that came at the same time or even before Hari Bhakti Vilasa that also deal with Gaudiya worship or proto-Gaudiya worship, the worship of the people who were the first Gaudiyas. So, for instance, Narasimha Paricharya and Ramarchana Padati, I think it is. Anyway, there are two other books, Narasimha Paricharya and Ramarchana. I want to say Deepika, but I'm not sure. Ramarchana something. Chandrika. I think Ramarchana Chandrika. And these two books are also available. The other book, which we think is very important to study in conjunction with Hari Bhakti Vilasa, is also the book by Rupa Goswami, Krishna Janma Titi Vidi, Krishna Janma Abhishekam. Because that is that is basically a worship of Lord Krishna, doing the Abhishekam, but less difficult, less difficult in some ways, more difficult in other ways. There's a much more emphasis on Purusha Shukta mantra, Vedic mantras in Krishna Jama Abhishekam, and less on the Nyasas. So more towards the Vedic style, and less towards the tantric or the agamic style. So Hari Bhakti Vilasa is much more agamic, much more tantric, and Krishna Jamatiti Vidi is much more Vedic, which is interesting because one's written by Sanatana Goswami, one's written by Rupa Goswami.
So Krishna Jamatiti is like more Shukla Yajurveda, isn't it?
Well, there are some Shukla Yajurveda verses in Hari Bhakti Vilasa also. Like I think we've come across. We talk about bath and everything in the bath. There's a Shukla Yajurveda mantra, but there's a lot in Krishna Jamatiti Vidi. So it's much more tantric. Krishna Jamatiti Vidi. Are there any nyasas? No, there's no nyasas at all. There's no nyasas at all. There's no discussion of Bija Mantras, Bija Pranayam, Kama Bija Pranayam. There's nothing like that in Krishna Jamatiti Vidi. But in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, you can see a lot of that. There's a lot of that stuff. So I'm not saying that they're two completely different ways of worshipping, although Krishna in the 27th chapter of the 11th canto does say there's the Vedic way, there's the Tantric way, and there's the mixed way. I think that people will probably end up using a mixed way unless they do Raghunuga Bhakti. But it's up to you if you want to be more towards the Vedic way, more towards the Tantric way. And to be fair, here we're talking about a full worship, daily worship. But there they're talking about just the abhishekam, just the bathing. Of course, other things are also offered, but it's specifically a special function, like a festival for the birth of Krishna, for his birthday. A lot of the mantras are mentioned again. Those ones there's a crossover we can see if we look at Krishna's the description of Janmashtami. The description of Janmashtami does give some of those same mantras that are there in Krishna Janmabhishek Titi. Yeah, but not the Vedic mantras, just the offering of how to offer the upacharas. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the let's just finish off with a little bit of the Manasika Puja, the Mahatmyam, and then we'll leave it at this point and leave external worship for next time. So text 242, the glories of Manasa Puja, or the Mahatmyam for Manasa Puja. Vaishnava Tantra says, thousands of horse sacrifices and hundreds of Vajrapayi sacrifices. Vajrapayi sacrifice, another type of Vedic sacrifice, are not equal to 1/16th part of Manasa Puja, or the worship of Lord in meditation. And 243 says in Brihad Naradiya Purana, the great Naradiya Purana, in relationship to the appearance of Vamandev, the Vamana avatar, it says, what is the need of explaining the benefits one obtains by offering prayers to the Supreme Lord, worshipping him and meditating upon him, when simply by uttering his holy names, all one's miseries are mitigated. In a conversation between Narada and the Supreme Lord in Narada Pancharatra, it is stated, O Brahmana, Manasa Puja destroys one's fear of old age, disease, and death. It removes all of one's sinful activities and anxieties. By adopting this process of Manasa Puja, or mental worship, one can become liberated from the material bodily conception of life. O great sage, I become very pleased with anyone who even, this is Krishna talking to Narada Muni, So I become very pleased with anyone who even begins to practice Manasa Puja with devotion. According to the prescribed rules and regulations, the merit obtained by performing Manasa Puja is superior to that obtained by the process of meditation described earlier, because it is included in the process of Manasa Puja. So Manasa Puja is not just meditation. So dhyana is part of puja. It's the first part of puja. We have to visualize the Lord. But visualizing ourselves actually worshiping the Lord includes visualizing the Lord. So it's better than dhyana. It's better than just plain meditation, is to do puja in meditation. Right? So according to the rules and regulations laid down by the various sampradayas, and according to one's propensity. So here we have it. So according to rules and regulations that your sampradaya tells you to do, and according to your propensity, whether you're a Raganuga Bhakta or a Vaidhi Bhakta, whether you're a Ram Bhakta, Narasimha Bhakta, or Krishna Bhakta, Radha Krishna Bhakta, Mahaprabhu Bhakta, whatever it is, one should practice Manasa Puja to the best of his ability before engaging in the external puja. And the last thing, Sri Narada has said in this connection, while performing Manasa Puja, one should offer 16 ingredients to the Lord within one's mind. So we're going to talk about those 16 things next time, the 16 upacharas, right? And then begin to worship the Lord by offering these ingredients externally. So it's like a practice run through. You offer the mental worship, the 16 articles of worship, the 16 services, you offer those to the Lord in the mind. And then after you've done that, you've done it once, then you just do it externally with the deity. That's the Bahya Puja. So now we have Atta Bahya Puja starting with, next time, text 249 to 250, the process of external worship.
Yeah.
Okay. So any final thoughts on that, or any final questions? I think it'll become much clearer after we finish when we finish the external puja and we talk about all the different upacharas and things. When we finish that, and it'll take a while to finish that, because the external puja, by the way, goes through the 8th Vilas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there are sidetracks. There are sidetracks about flowers and leaves and different things, different articles that are offered. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly straightforward, but it doesn't end until the 8th Vilas. And there are other sidetracks too. We have to talk about Shalagram. We have to talk about different things. But we're just going to start the external now. And we won't fully understand how to do the internal, because the internal started off by saying to us, do what you do externally, do it internally in your mind. So now we have to learn how to do the external. Once we know the external, then we'll know how to do the internal.
Right. Yeah, it was very interesting. It just your explanation about Gopal Mantra being used as Mula Mantra, because we don't have this perception. This is a completely new perception for me.
Right. For me too. I've never done worship to some deities with just Gopal Mantra, because that's not the way I was taught. That's because I was never worshiping just Krishna by himself.
Yeah.
It's not the concept that the acharyas are giving nowadays to their disciples. They're all telling them to worship Radha Krishna with Mahaprabhu or with Panchatattva, or that's how they're being taught nowadays. So this is a look back in the past as well, into the beginning of the Gaudiya Sampradaya and how things were. Gopal Bhatta was, Sanatana and Gopal Bhatta Goswami, they had this order from Lord Chaitanya to teach people what to do. So they couldn't think of, in the future, everybody's going to want to worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Panchatattva and Radha Krishna. So they could only, okay, so we're going to present something which is very, very orthodox. The Nimbarkas have been doing this, they've been following Kramadipika for hundreds of thousands of years. So let's take that and show Krishna worship as it is, but in a very, very orthodox way. And that will show that, and that'll be our example to people. of how to worship Krishna. And then they'll accept us, because this is a brand new sampradaya, and we want to be accepted by the other sampradayas. So we want to present things in a way that they've presented them before, and show people that, yes, we also worship Krishna in the same way that you do, like that. And then different acharyas came along and said, oh, but also we can add this, and we can add this, we can add Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva, and we can add Radha, and we can add the Gopis, and we can add all these different things. And we can therefore have to add a few different, and instead of this mantra, we'll use that mantra instead of that. So as it progressed, and people came along and started talking about Raghunuga Bhakti. We don't know if people were talking or even writing it down about Raghunuga Bhakti originally. It may also be like in other sampradayas, there are some esoteric teachings which are not written down at a certain point. And at a certain point, people thought, unless we write this down, they may be lost. So we should write it down. So we don't know that the understanding of worshiping, doing Raghunuga Bhakti may always be there. It may have always been there. We see examples stretching way back in history of people who were devotees of Krishna in a Raghunuga way, even Andal, for hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. But Andal didn't write a little book and say, this is how Raghunuga Bhakti works. So therefore, at a certain point, that had to be written down or to be lost. So it's not necessarily at this point in Gaudiya history. So this is a snapshot of Gaudiya history, and this was written, and it was written as a book for people to follow, but it also had other reasons why it was written. It was written to show the authenticity and the orthodoxness of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. So it shows how authentic the Gaudiya Sampradaya is, because he's quoting from all these different places. So people come along and say, oh, you're a new Sampradaya, and well, how do you worship Krishna and everything like that? Oh, we just worship like this and this and this. No, Gopal Bhatta said, and Sanam Goswami, they said, no, we worship according to, they quote from them all these different scriptures. There's over 200 scriptures that the Goswamis are quoting in Hari Bhakti Vilas. And that puts their scripture on a very solid basis, because they're giving quotes from all these different places, and nobody can refute it. People look at this book from other sampradayas. I've had Madhvas and Sri Vaishnavas look at Hari Bhakti Vilas and say, wow, this is a really good book. It is really full of Shastric Pramanas. It proves so many things and gives the proof for so many things. Sometimes I'm looking for a proof for something that I see in a different sampradaya, and I find it in Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's a very, very intricate book, and a very, very authentic book. And it's a gem amongst tantras, I have to say. It's like a jewel, a crest jewel of tantras. The way that he has brought all these things together. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next time.
Pranams.
Namaskaram. Pranams.